Hi guys. Now we're going to talk about the difference between operant conditioning and what we talked about previously, classical conditioning. So first we'll look at the role of biology in both of them. So in classical conditioning, this guy John Garcia and others found it was easier to learn associations that make sense for survival. So things that are more relevant to our day-to-day lives are easier for us to learn associations. So food aversions, meaning you're repulsed by certain foods, can be acquired even if the unconditioned response, i.e. nausea, does not immediately follow the neutral stimulus. When acquiring food aversions during pregnancy or illness, the body associates nausea with whatever food was eaten. So males in one study were more likely to see a pictured woman as attractive if the picture had a red border. Interesting. What do you guys think? So a quail can have a sexual response linked to a fake quail more readily and strongly than to a red light. So there are these biological factors that are going on below the level of our consciousness that we're not aware of, but yet nonetheless they're affecting how we learn and how we adapt our behavior. So let's look at how cognitive processes play out in both of these. So in classical conditioning, so when the dog salivates at the bell, it may be due to cognition, learning to predict or even expect the food. Conditioned responses can alter attitudes even when we know the change is caused by conditioning. However, knowing that our reactions are caused by conditioning gives us the option of mentally breaking the association. For example, deciding that nausea associated with a food aversion was actually caused by an illness. So our thoughts can kind of override these automatic unconscious conditioning. So higher order conditioning involves some cognition, and the name of a food may trigger a response. So in operant conditioning, on the other hand, in fixed interval reinforcements, animals do more target behaviors or responses around the time that the reward is more likely, as if they were expecting the reward. Expectation as a cognitive skill is even more evident in the ability of humans to respond to delayed reinforcers, such as a paycheck. Higher order conditioning can be enabled with cognition. For example, seeing something such as money as a reward because of its indirect value. So these are ideas. What we're talking about here is how our ideas and our thoughts influence the way in which we're conditioned. So you could very easily, actually not very easily, but you could override your conditioning by having your thoughts trump them. So for example, in class, when I was spraying one of your classmates with a spray bottle every time I said the word Pavlov, they could have been able to say, no, I'm not going to allow my face to tick. Now, there's still probably some measurable, but you can affect the outcome by adding your thoughts to them. So humans can set behavioral goals for self and other and then plan their own reinforcers. I think this is interesting too. It shows the power of cognition, the power of thought. Well, there's good old Tiger Woods. We'll talk about learning, rewards, and motivation. So intrinsic motivation refers to the desire to perform a behavior well for its own sake. The reward is internalized as a feeling of satisfaction. So if you're really competitive, if you're the type of person who really likes to achieve success, your own satisfaction in your own mind will be enough. But extrinsic motivation, which is most of us need, refers to doing a behavior to receive praise or money or some recognition from others. Intrinsic motivation can sometimes be reduced by external rewards and can be prevented by using continuous reinforcement. One principle for maintaining behavior is to use as few rewards as possible and fade them over time. So when we're motivated solely by extrinsic motivation, that's kind of not as effective because it depends on whether or not we get something from our environment. Intrinsic motivation, when we say someone is self-motivated, that means that they don't need others to tell them that they were good. They don't need the pat on the back. They don't need the ego groping that happens when you do something good and people recognize you for it. Intrinsic motivation is you know yourself that you achieved something and that's enough to motivate you. So that's what we all strive for, but the praise and the money and the awards definitely help. So what might happen if we begin to reward a behavior someone was already doing and enjoying? It's an interesting question. So that'll do it for this evening. Have a good evening.